Stolitz is not very good. Okay, I have more to say than just that because if I didn't, I wouldn't be making a whole video on it, of course. I was actually planning on doing this whole Hell of a Boss review / analysis thing in which I would, talk about the whole show and also discuss Stolitz for a section, but I have a lot to say about it on its own, and I really don't have the energy to make a whole ass 2-hour video on this hell show right now. Now, I can already see you, fanfic writers and artists in the back who have written and created a lot of work for Stolitz because it's your favorite ship or something, and you know what I have to say to that, nerds? Cool, keep it up. Proud of you. I want to preface this entire video, actually, with this disclaimer that I am not here to change anyone's mind or to ruin a show or a ship that they like. Heck, a long while ago I used to be a fan of Hell of a Boss, Vivian Medrano, and Stolitz. So, I can see what people like about this show and this ship. I am not here to tell you that you're wrong for enjoying it. I'm also not here to Lily Orchard Core accuse the creators of a show I don't like, and all of you good people of being evil or something for liking a couple of cartoon characters and wanting them to kiss. I'm also not one of those douchebags who's gonna demand that you watch and engage with a video providing critique towards something that might be really meaningful to you. If you think that what I'm gonna say in this video is going to upset you, then you don't have to listen to me at all, You could go watch a video that praises the things that you like instead, which is a better use of your time, I would imagine. Oh, and if you do decide to stay, don't be rude in the comments. I will delete comments if they are inflammatory or bigoted towards anyone, including fans or the creators of Hell of a Boss. We stand nuanced and balanced discussion and criticism around these parts. Ultimately, I'm just a little faggo with a YouTube channel, so you don't have to listen to or care about what I have to say if you really don't want to. But if you are still here, welcome to the video where a depressed bisexual man complains about a relationship in a YouTube cartoon for however many minutes this thing is gonna be. Stolitz and Blitz as a pairing, Stolitz, is overall one of my least favorite aspects of Hell of a Boss. Yeah, the other writing issues and the misogyny elephant in the room are objectively bigger problems, there's no doubt about that, but Stolitz annoys me more than all of the other bad elements in the show, I think. I would venture to guess that this is partially the case because these two and their ship are an unnecessarily huge focal point in the story. Like, we're 2 seasons in now, and their relationship hasn't really progressed in any meaningful way despite the sheer amount of screen time and focus that these two characters get. Several episodes are entirely about their dynamic, or at least heavily feature it, and a lot of other major plot threads like the Coercion divorce and many of Blitz's personal traumas are thematically interconnected with the relationship. Back when I was in the fandom, yes, that was a thing, most of the content that I saw was specifically Stolitz related. There's a metric ton of fan art, mini comics, and fanfiction made by skilled people who care a lot about it. Despite Stolitz himself not even being a part of the main cast, he, Blitz, and their relationship are a core aspect of the experience of Hell of a Boss as a show and in the fandom. While it would normally be very easy to just enjoy the main plot of a show and not pay much mind to a botched and poorly written relationship, it doesn't really work out all that well when the ship is the main plot of the show half the time. It's a big deal, truly. And it's an even bigger deal, to me at least, when you examine the relationship as a whole and with some amount of media literacy. So to help you all understand why I'm not an enjoyer of Stolitz, let's ask the big burning question that plagues me every single time I think about them as a couple. Why do they even like each other? Okay, maybe a bit of a rephrase is in order. The actual question should be, why does Stolitz have feelings for Blitz? The way that their relationship is presented is quite odd when the writers are seemingly going for a romance angle. Based on how things are framed, the show itself is shipping these two characters and is prodding the audience into wanting the same thing. We're supposed to root for Stolitz and Blitz. We're supposed to be on the edge of our seats, frothing at the mouth and taking psychic damage each time Blitz rejects or dismisses him. We're supposed to want Blitz to just look his way and give a serious relationship with him the old college try. It's like the writers think that they wrote Blitz to be this tsundere type character who secretly wants Stolitz's love but is too damaged and up his own arse to admit it. When rewatching and taking notes and paying extra attention to the dialogue, however, I realized that this really isn't the case and it doesn't come off that way in the show. With the exception of 1 or 2 moments, which I will cover, Blitz always acts genuinely uninterested in Stolitz pretty much every single time that they're on screen together, or that Stolitz is mentioned to him offhandedly. There's this bit in the Harvest Moon Festival, for example, when Millie remarks that Stolitz is Blitz's boyfriend, to which Blitz threatens to hit her for calling him that.
We're just visiting for the festival. The prince is our boss's boyfriend.
Millie, I am not above hitting a female in front of her daddy.
He says it quite seriously, too. There's not a moment where he blushes and looks away before threatening her, which would indicate to the audience that he has some interest in him that he's obscuring. Nope. He's just straightforward and kind of exasperated. Most of Lululand is just Stolitz aggressively hitting on him in public and in front of his own daughter, by the way, while Blitz doesn't reciprocate and generally responds with aggravation or a cold distance. This is their whole dynamic throughout the course of the show, and to illustrate my point on that, I'm just gonna play all of these clips from several different episodes in chronological order.
Oh, Blitz, I'm so excited. I cannot wait to feel your slimy inside of my...
What?
Why, hello, my big-dicked Blitzy.
What the fuck?
Dad!
Language, everyone. I have a special request.
Oh, look, I just had a chemical peel, so you'll have to find someone else's face to plant that feathered ass.
You know, it's quite thrilling to see you on the job, Blitzy.
Save it, bitch, I'm working.
You both need to get a room.
Hey, I am not a day hooker.
I'm sorry for having to move our little rendezvous early. I have an engagement this month on the full moon.
When this happens, it's not really something I fuss about.
Good luck to you all. Especially that sexy little one there. Yoo-hoo, Blitzy.
Oh, fuck me.
The winners are Striker and my darling Blitzy.
Just say my name right.
Are you all right?
Ugh, I'm fine, Stolitz.
Good. Do you prefer red wine or white, Blitz? Or perhaps some champagne?
Yeah, whatever.
Yes. You were here to ravish me, weren't you?
You?
Based on what is presented to the viewer in the show, like in the show, not in fanon, not in headcanon stuff, Blitz does not reciprocate Stolitz's feelings romantically or sexually. He's wholly unenthusiastic about sleeping with him and clearly views him as a means to an end, which is probably why he assumes Stolitz views him the exact same way, as a tool, a transaction. There are some moments like the kiss in Truth Seekers or the way that he reacts to Stolitz being hurt at the end of Western Energy that kind of implies that there might be something there, but it's not dissected or really interrogated in any meaningful way by the narrative. I know that some of you are screaming at your screen like, but Rot, in Truth Seekers there's that whole bad trip scene where Blitz's insecurities about commitment and intimacy are explored, and Stolitz is also in that episode, and is part of the bad trip segment. Yes, while that is true, the symbolism in this segment, intentionally or not, portrays Blitz as a captive. He's chained up and led to him like an animal, and he doesn't seem very happy about it. It's difficult to say that this sequence is at all indicative of any romantic feelings from Blitz when Stolitz is explicitly depicted as controlling him in this sequence. Overall, we as the audience don't get to see any deep care that Blitz might really have for him, which is odd when Stolitz is intended to be rooted for by the audience. So Blitz doesn't actually really like or care for him that much. So why is Stolitz interested in him then? Well, the show actually doesn't really imply that Stolitz likes him all that much outside of the bedroom until it comes up in Aussies. Though he does fawn over Blitz in many episodes leading up to that one, most of it is explicitly sexual or it's Stolitz talking down to him, doing things like pinching his cheek, calling him his impy plaything, and things like that. Weird. I wonder if this condescending treatment is something that will come up again. Though it's never explicitly stated in the first season, it could be inferred that Stolitz's investment in Blitz and his romantic feelings for him were born out of a sort of desperation. He's portrayed as a very sympathetic, sad guy who's been stuck in this unhappy marriage for some time. He's also kind of implied to be a sort of closeted gay man who was forced into a heteronormative relationship and lifestyle due to his heritage, his social status dictating the need for him to produce an heir. It could be that his relationship with Blitz is so important to him because he has never experienced anything like it. He's been stuck in an unloving marriage with a woman he hates and is not attracted to, so even though Blitz doesn't love him, Stolitz's ability to be intimate with him was what he truly fell in love with. But at the beginning of season 2, the circus kind of takes all of those really interesting, morally gray ideas and throws them right out, instead presenting Stolitz and Blitz as star-crossed lovers who met as kids. Stolitz had a crush on him as a kid, and his father literally bought Blitz as a playmate for a day because of that, which highlights the racial hierarchy and classism that was present from day one in this relationship. Great! Oh, and while we're on the topic of the circus actually, there's that scene after the time skip that shows exactly how their whole arrangement began. And, like, let me just take a second to analyze this scene, because it's pretty important to a lot of my points, and it's kind of indicative about a lot of things about their relationship. So Blitz attempts to break into Stolitz's home to steal his grimoire and gets caught by the guards, to which Stolitz tells them that he will bring Blitz to his room and deal with the problem himself. After getting there, Stolitz immediately begins to flirt with him, assuming that the whole reason that Blitz appeared and tried to sneak in was to sleep with him. Note that Stolitz drank quite a lot before this, and though he's not acting drunk, maybe the writers just forgot he drank, is quite likely buzzed. Blitz manipulates his attraction to him and flirts back, though not genuinely, and then there's this really long, cartoony, and uncomfortable sequence where Blitz is trying to get a book while Stolitz is under the impression that he's trying to fuck him and is rattling off dirty talk and obscenities, and it's just... ugh. At the end, when he's tied up and Blitz is about to go out the window, he hears Stolitz moan about how he's never been loved in such a way, and out of pity, guilt, and probably some fear of repercussions, considering Stolitz's power, Blitz gives in and sleeps with him. So yeah, Stolitz likes Blitz romantically now, apparently, even though it seems that their relationship and Stolitz's supposed care for him was almost entirely about boning. Truly, Stolitz having romantic feelings and personal investment in him makes little to no sense when you consider that their on-screen chemistry is non-existent. The two of them have, like, a lot of potential to be really funny together, but the potential is squandered in practice. One of the best ways to make a couple likable, at least in my opinion, is to make liberal use of playful banter. Hell of a Boss just doesn't do this at all. Almost all of their banter is either uncomfortable sex jokes that Blitz responds to negatively, or it's Stolitz talking down to him like he's a child. Why does he like him if they, like, never engage on any intellectual level? They never have a conversation about any mutual interests, they never get along or bond, and we're just supposed to believe that Stolitz likes him? What? Another very important element to establishing a relationship like this is to unflinchingly depict mutual attraction to one another. While Stolitz is physically very attracted to Blitz, and this is made quite explicit throughout the series, the opposite is not true. Blitz never seems attracted to him. He just doesn't reciprocate Stolitz's romantic feelings towards him at all. Their relationship is purely transactional to him. He doesn't want to be romantic with Stolitz, and it seems that he doesn't want to be having sex with him either. And this is what brings us to our next point. The weird coercive power dynamic. You ever think about how weird it is that this show is shipping a victim of sexual coercion with his coercer and is blaming that victim for not reciprocating the coercer's romantic feelings? I have. Objectively, Stolitz is coercing Blitz into sex with him by using his social status and power over him to do so. This is not a leap in logic, this is not me pulling shit out of my arse, this is not me extrapolating a harsh conclusion from innocuous details, this is literally what happens in the show. Let me explain. Using the definition given by the Office on Women's Health, quote, sexual coercion is unwanted sexual activity that happens when you are pressured, tricked, threatened, or forced in a non-physical way. Coercion can make you think that you owe sex to someone. It might be from someone who has power over you, like a teacher, landlord, or a boss. As that definition itself even mentioned, one of the most common examples of sexual coercion that you, the audience, may be familiar with is that of a boss using their power over an employee by threatening to fire them if sexual favors are not performed. With this in mind, let's take a look at Stolitz. It is a part of Hell of a Boss's world building that Stolitz has a lot of social capital. He is Hell royalty and has a lot of political, physical, and social power. This is to the point that he owns imp servants who are presumably not being paid. At the very least, they're clearly not respected, considering that we see Stella throwing them around while yelling at her husband in one scene. This lack of rights and respect for lower classes is hammered in even further when you remember Stryker and his motivations as one of the main villains in the show. He's near the bottom of the social totem pole, and he's tired of being thrown out, disrespected, and looked down upon by blue blood royalty. Now Blitz, as you'll probably remember, is an imp. Like Stryker, he is on the bottom of the racial hierarchy. He is looked down upon by Hell royalty and those in power. He is seen as inherently incompetent and not worth the time of those who believe that they are better than him. This is to the point that Stryker even remarks about how impressive it is that he's an imp who owns a business.
Boss, huh? Oh, so you're the bold imp that started his own killing biz.
Yeah, well, when you're good at something, you should probably capitalize.
Not many imps start businesses on their own. That's pretty impressive, sir.
Point is, Stolitz has social, political, and physical power over him. He's powerful royalty, and Blitz is essentially a peasant commoner. Now, I know you're all thinking, well, this kind of power thing is a tale as old as time. A story that you've probably heard in 50 shitty tween webtoons. Yes, you're right. I understand that there being a power dynamic between them doesn't mean that there is inherently abuse going on. Yes. Just because Stolitz has power over him doesn't mean that he's automatically using that power to coerce him into sex. Except in this case, he is actually. Their entire relationship is built on transaction. Blitz is sleeping with him because he needs Stolitz's grimoire to do his job.
My book, Blitzy. The book I was given to do my job, that I have allowed you to use to do yours.
If Blitz at any point refused to consent, then he would lose his job and his company, and by extension, Moxie, Millie, and Luna would all lose their jobs as well. Bro, that is textbook coercion. He has no other options here but to say yes. I also want to, again, point out that in many scenes in the first season especially, Stolitz is directly and intensely patronizing towards Blitz. He talks down to him, belittles him and other imps, he calls him nicknames publicly that he does not like to embarrass him, and pretty much all of their meaningful conversations on screen outside of angsty moments are littered with sex jokes or references. The writers and fans and whoever can insist that Stolitz thinks of Blitz as an equal all they want, but I genuinely don't see it in the way that he's treated. I don't see how or why Stolitz is supposedly in love with him in any meaningful sense of the word. It just comes off as really confused and bad writing. If Blitz was, I don't know, actually invested in their relationship in the same way that Stolitz is, then maybe this would be a bit less of a big deal and their dynamic could still work out without it being blatant coercion and disrespect. But this is not the case. As I've said before, in nearly every single scene that Blitz and Stolitz share, Blitz is cold, reserved, and distant from the relationship, or he's visibly uncomfortable. Even in Truth Seekers, which is, again, the only evidence of Blitz having any genuine romantic interest in Stolitz, the symbolism in his bad trip, despite depicting Stolitz as this angelic ideal lover, it also shows, again, in the same breath, that Blitz feels like he's in shackles and is being used. I don't even think I've ever seen any evidence of Blitz being genuinely sexually attracted to him either. Like, I guess you could say that he reacted slightly in Seeing Stars at Stolitz's human disguise, and they did kiss at the end of Truth Seekers, but outside of those very brief moments, I don't really see him ever being genuinely attracted to him. You would think that in the circus of all places, which shows their first time sleeping together, Blitz might turn and look at Stolitz tied up and get this look of, "Zam, I kinda wanna fuck that Brutusi" on his face, but he doesn't. He seems to just look at him with a kind of guilty pity. There's really no attraction here. And I know that a lot of people will say that Blitz is the one who instigated the relationship based on what we saw in the circus, but like, no? Stolitz was the one who initiated the flirting between them, and Blitz simply reciprocated in an effort to manipulate him. Heck, Stolitz is even the one who comes up with the transactional deal thing in episode 1, which is confusing. Like, what is the timeline here? Blitz, though he went along with the deal, was not the one who came up with it. The show desperately wants you to see this relationship as just slightly and mutually toxic. Blitz is often the one framed to be in the wrong for bumping uglies with the bird prince without reciprocating romantically anyway. In episodes like Aussies and at the end of Western Energy, the framing of the show wants the viewer to sympathize with Stolitz, to feel bad for him because he loves this guy who won't so much as look his way. But like, no, this is more than just toxicity that can easily be worked around. Stolitz is literally sexually coercing Blitz repeatedly by using his power over him to do it. That is sexual abuse. The relationship might be mutually toxic because, yes, Blitz is deliberately sleeping with him in exchange for the book, and he is not even making a modicum of an effort to try and return the romantic affection he's afforded. But as much as I don't like Blitz as a character and think he's a douche and a wanker, there is clearly an imbalance of who is worse here. Blitz manipulating Stolitz's feelings to benefit transactionally becomes a lot less meaningful when you consider that he doesn't have much of a choice. I have to stress, he has to sleep with him or he'll lose everything that he has. This gets even worse as the show goes on because Blitz is framed as the asshole in the situation a lot while Stolitz is portrayed as sympathetic. There's this really telling scene actually at the end of Aussies that kind of sums up the whole thing.
Thank you for inviting me out tonight. Despite everything that's happened, I enjoyed spending time with you.
Yeah.
You know, I have some more wine in the house. Octavia's with her mother this weekend, so we could.
I'm not fucking you tonight, okay? I'm really just... I'm really not in the mood, Stolitz.
We could talk, or watch a movie, or maybe cuddle.
Stolitz, don't act like what we have is anything but you wanting me to fuck you, okay? You make that really clear all the time. But I can't do it tonight, okay? I'm sorry.
Okay. Good night, Blitz.
Night.
The show really wants us to side with Stolitz here because we know that his romantic feelings for Blitz are genuine based on previous scenes. But Blitz is kind of in the right for feeling this way. Stolitz very much is using him, whether he himself realizes it or not, and Blitz is not really in the wrong for refusing to see their relationship as anything deeper than that, because it kind of isn't. I want to take a few moments to stress that the problem here is not that their relationship is toxic, it's that the show doesn't really acknowledge it, which brings us to our next section. The framing is kind of victim-blamey, actually. I genuinely think that, in a vacuum, the idea for Stolitz is a solid one. I would love to see a piece of media that explores two emotionally damaged and toxic characters entering a questionable relationship like this. Especially when it comes to gay characters, there's not a lot of popular media that features LGBT relationships with the kind of rockiness and nuance that Stolitz could have had. When I think about these characters in abstract, I'm just so disappointed because I can feel the potential for nuance and interesting development here. Consider, Stolitz is an emotionally stunted person of privilege. He grew up as a member of the royal family with this idea of superiority instilled at him from a very young age. As an adult, he now effortlessly exerts his power over those weaker and in lower social classes than him, and he does it so much and without thinking that he doesn't even realize how it affects those around him. He's a closeted gay man who is forced into a heteronormative relationship with a woman that he neither loves nor that loves him, all for the sake of creating an heir to the Coercion throne. Although he loves Octavia and cares for her at heart, he's unintentionally a neglectful father throughout her childhood because his own father was kind of the same and he doesn't really have any sort of basis or understanding of how to be a good father at all. He falls in love with Blitz because for the first time in his life, physical intimacy with someone was not a chore. Their rendezvous made him feel loved and seen. However, because of his upbringing, social status, and lack of experience in the realm of romance, he doesn't really know how to talk to Blitz or engage with him in any way that is not explicitly sexual or patronizing. He belittles him unintentionally, talks down to him, sees him as lesser because that's what he was raised to believe. He doesn't do so out of genuine malice or hatred, but instead out of unconscious prejudice and racial bias that was instilled in him all throughout his life. Blitz, on the other hand, is similarly emotionally repressed, though for other reasons. He's a flawed dude with a history of being used by people in relationships and being abandoned by those he loves. To protect himself from continuing to be victimized, he emotionally detaches himself from all of his lovers and connections and lashes out. He's an asshole, a dick, dismissive, cold, and struggles with intimacy because of how he's been hurt in the past. He's so obsessed with Moxie and Millie's relationship because he yearns for the kind of love and stability that they have, and yet his own behavior ironically pushes people away and inhibits him from having that. Based on their transactional agreement and the way that he's spoken to, he believes that Stolitz's interest in him is entirely self-motivated, believes that he's seen as a means to an end, a tool, an object. Thus, he shuns all of Stolitz's pushes for romantic intimacy and can't accept that there might be some mutual genuine care that both of them have for each other. Like, God, in abstract their relationship sounds fucking fascinating, and I would love to see its toxicity explored and addressed throughout the show. The thing is, it's not. Rather than addressing Stolitz's bad behavior and his abuse of power over Blitz, the writers bend over backwards to woobify him and make him sympathetic to the audience instead. He's ultimately like a morally gray character if you look at him objectively. Despite the show being set in hell though, and despite that one of the major defenses from the creators and fans about the bad things that the characters do and say is that they are demons in hell and therefore are expected to be bad people, the show ironically doesn't want viewers to think of Stolitz as a bad person. He cheated on his wife? Well, she's an evil, stupid woman, and so his cheating is justified. He neglects his daughter in favor of Blitz and in favor of arguing with his now ex-wife? Nah, he's great actually, and he's a super good father, and he loves his daughter, so it's okay. He's using his power over Blitz to coerce him into sex? No he's not actually. He actually has romantic feelings for him, and he loves him and would never hurt him. This is definitely consensual. He's a person of privilege who regularly talks down to imps and others. He's so sad. Look at him taking antidepressants. He's so lonely and has no one feel bad for him. Oh, and you're not supposed to care that he's a classist rich guy, because one of the main villains of the show is the guy who's anti-classism, because classism is great. I mean, what? It's kind of weird seeing the show acknowledge how shitty of a person Blitz is at times, all the while it refuses to shine the same kind of light on Stolitz. They're both kind of assholes, ultimately, and Stolitz is worse in this relationship specifically. He has a lot to learn as a character that could be explored, but the narrative refuses to be critical of him. Like, I'm not aggro that the story is covering dark themes at all. Like, one of my favorite movies is Martyrs, for God's sakes. I love dark themes in stories. The story is not bad because it has a toxic, unhealthy relationship in it. Stolitz, the coercer, is framed as the good guy, the sad boy, the one that the audience should be rooting for. Every single bad thing that he does in this relationship, and outside of it actually, is intentionally swept under the rug and not addressed because, God forbid, in our hell show about demons being evil, we have a morally gray character. Blitz, the victim of coercion, is framed as this cold meanie head who just needs to open up his heart and date this bird already. Again, their relationship on paper is interesting and has potential, but in execution it falls flat on its face and seems quite victim-blamey actually. And because the idea had potential, I don't just want to be a negative Nancy. I also want to discuss how I personally would have written it to make it, you know, good, in my opinion at least. What I would change. First of all, number 1, I would have Blitz reciprocate Stolitz's sexual advances. He should be visibly and explicitly attracted to him, not just uneasily suffering their intimacy. Maybe he could be a bit less enthusiastic than Stolitz is, sure, but establishing that they're both physically attracted to each other would make their sexual banter less uncomfortable and more humorous. Number 2, establish to the audience that Blitz has romantic feelings for Stolitz. Because the show is going for this kind of tsundere angle, it seems, in which Blitz is secretly in love with him but is denying it, it needs to be clear to the audience. Otherwise, it just seems like he actually genuinely does not like him. There should be a lot more moments in the show where it's made clear to the viewer that he has feelings for Stolitz, though he intentionally obscures it and aggressively even refuses to accept it himself. Perhaps their conflict could actually be about Blitz feeling like an object due to the differences in their power and the way that he's spoken to. He doesn't realize, acknowledge, or accept that Stolitz has feelings for him. There would be mutual attraction there, both sexual and romantic, but Blitz feels like it's all about sex and not about romance. Because it would be established that Blitz likes boning him, the sexual coercion angle would soften and be a lot less rapey, so Blitz likes and enjoys their agreement for some time. But when he starts to catch actual feelings for him, that's when he starts to pull away because he feels like Stolitz would not genuinely reciprocate, and that opening up to him would end up with Blitz being hurt, abandoned, and rejected. Number 3. Give them some more on-screen interactions, build-up, and chemistry that is not of a sexual or patronizing nature. As I've already said, most of their interactions on screen are Stolitz hitting on him or Stolitz talking down to him. I feel like there are a lot of opportunities in the script to, you know, give them some more interaction that establishes their interest in each other. Please give them a reason to like each other, I'm desperate. Like, they could have mutual interests or similar feelings about things, and they could play off of each other and banter naturally. A great place to put this, I think, would be in the Harvest Moon Festival episode and also maybe a little bit in Lululand. Establishing that they have actual chemistry would make a lot of the sudden romance stuff in Truth Seekers and Aussies make more sense and feel more naturally built up to. Finally, number 4, have Stolitz realize, acknowledge, and try to address his bad behavior. I mean, Blitz too, obviously they both need character development, but you know, the narrative desperately needs to acknowledge that Stolitz is also at fault. I want to see him grow as a character, and I think that exploring how his privilege has informed his treatment of Blitz and others would be so fucking interesting, especially when classism and the whole racial social hierarchy thing is actually a huge theme in the show, and is a big part of the world building. There should be moments of reflection, and on-screen, slower conversations between these two characters. Blitz's refusal to look his way is not the only flaw that is preventing their relationship from functioning, and that should be addressed and interrogated by the writers. Let's give Stolitz some sweet, succulent character development. I need it. I'm frothing at the mouth. Conclusion. Stolitz is not very good, but it could have been. It could have been. It had a lot of potential to be something special in terms of representation and execution, especially in season 1, and yet it's been spiraling downward. The whole show, honestly, has taken a nosedive in quality and is on fire and is spinning out of control. Again, I want to take a second to remind everyone that if you like Hell of a Boss and you like Stolitz, I think that's fine. Though I find it to be kind of problematic and disappointing in execution in the show itself, I understand why a lot of people like it and find comfort and interest in it. If you care a lot about them and like their dynamic, that's great, and I'm not here to call you an evil person over that. I'm not here to take that away from you either. Though if you did make it through this video as a fan of the show and or of this ship, I love you, and appreciate you, actually. It's great to be critical of the media that we love, and I think that's very cool. I know that this is really different to the kind of videos that I normally make, but I had a lot to say about the subject, and I'm hoping to try and pivot my content into more commentary and review-esque shit. So if you liked it or have some thoughts, please tell me in the comments. I want to know what you think about the topic, and also if you want to see more content like this from me. With all of that being said, rate and subscribe if you feel inclined to do so. Reminder that all of my socials and my Ko-Fi if you want to support me financially are linked in the description. I also still have commissions open if you're interested in ordering one. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will now bid you all adieu.